lot of riders actually over-tighten their motorcycle chain or are having a lot of issues to set it up correctly, and that can cause way more problems than you might think. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to properly adjust your chain, how to check the slack correctly, and the mistakes you really want to avoid. And there's also one thing that almost everyone forgets to check.
Now there are two problems you can have with your chain. You can either be like this, way too tight, or it can be way too loose when you have a lot of play on the chain. You want to have the perfect amount of chain slack. Reason being is if your chain is too tight, you will damage your sprockets and your bearings possibly. It really reduces the life of the chain as well. And if your chain is way too loose, then you risk the fact that you might lose the chain while riding, which is also pretty dangerous. So you don't want either of those two. This is one of those simple maintenance jobs that can actually damage your motorcycle if you do it wrong. So let me show you how I've been personally doing this for the past couple of years.
Okay, you don't need much for this job. For my NC750 here, I have a torque wrench and a socket wrench. I have a 14 and a 12 millimeter spanner. Just a simple metal spanner here that I use to push the chain up and down to measure my slack, and then an actual tool that will measure the distance of my slack.
Okay, so before I actually adjust my chain slack, I always take a look at the general state of my chain and the sprockets. So I take a look that the teeth are still in good condition. The same goes for the front sprocket. And then I take a look at if there are any frozen links or if there's any damage that I can see. And then the next thing I do is I take a look and I go look for the tightest spot in the chain to see if I have any tight spots. Now, since this chain is in pretty good condition still, even though it has like 16,000 kilometers on it, we're just going to start right here. The first thing you want to do is make sure that your motorcycle is on the side stand. The next thing we're going to be doing is take two spanners, a 14 and a 12 millimeter for this bike, and we're just going to loosen these nuts. Now, this is the one that you use to adjust your chain with, and this is the one that locks everything in place.
As you can see, there are other systems as well. This ZX4RR has a cotter pin here that you have to remove first before you can take off the axle nut. And then these nuts are the same as on the NC750. Here on the CB1000, it's a bit different. This left one here is to hold everything in place, and this right nut here is to adjust your chain slack.
And of course, you do the same on the other side. Now you take your socket wrenches. For this bike, it's a 22 and a 27 that you need, and you're just going to loosen this rear axle nut. What I always like to do, I don't know if you can see it, but I don't remove the axle nut completely.
I used to remove the rear axle nut in the beginning, but then from time to time the wheel moved more to one side than the other. So by keeping it on, you don't have that issue, and the wheel is nice and stable for you to adjust. Okay, now it's time for the actual adjustment with this first nut. If you turn it to the right or clockwise, you will automatically tighten the chain. And if you turn it to the left or counterclockwise, you will loosen the chain. Now, it's very important that you do the same on both sides. So what do I mean by this? Right now, I'm doing a quarter turn to the left to loosen my chain. And I do the exact same on the other side. The more precise you are here, the better. So any turns that you do on one side, you have to do on the other as well. Now, what you also have to do is you have to check the markings on your swing arm. I have 5 stripes here on this side, and on the other I also should have 5 stripes. Then you also have to make sure that they're equally divided over that little space. So it has to be the same exact amount of space. Sometimes I measure these out as well, just to make sure. Now, this is actually the most important part, because you might have a chain slack that is perfect, but if these readings are off, or way off, that actually means that your rear tire is sitting crooked in between your swing arm, and this will definitely result in you having an accident sooner than later. I will go more into detail about this later in the video. Then we check our chain slack. For the NC, the chain should be between 2.5 and 3.5 centimeters of slack. So 25 and 35 millimeters. I wasn't satisfied yet, so I'm going to tighten it a little bit more, like 1/8 of a turn. And I repeat it as well on the other side. Here I measured it again just to be sure. And I was pretty happy with what I had. Okay, so the next step is of course to fasten this last bolt again, this last nut, to make sure everything is in place and our chain slack stays the same. One final check to make sure that you did not change the slack by accidentally turning on the first nut. What I always like to check is if that the chain looks straight from the front to the rear sprocket.
Okay, so when you're done with all that and you're happy about the chain slack, now the next item on our list is to torque the rear axle nut. For the NC750, it's 98 Newton meters of torque that I'm using, so we're going to be doing that right now. Okay, so now that we're done with everything and I double checked it, I'm going to put it back on the center stand and spin the rear wheel a few times so I can take a look at the chain and what the wheel's doing. Now, there are a couple of things that can go wrong, so if you're having issues, keep watching. I'm going to be showing you right now how you can troubleshoot some of these problems.
Okay, so the first issue is the one that we've already slightly talked about, is when these markings on your swing arm are not the same, and resulting in the fact that your tire will be rotated to one side more than the other, so like to the left or to the right. Now, the way that you can solve this is you have to focus on which side your tire is rotated to. So if your tire is rotated to the left, for example, you want to loosen the left side. So the same nut that we use to tighten our chain, you just loosen the bolt where the tire is pointing to. And then the other side, of course, you have to tighten that to make sure that everything is straight. So for now, don't worry about your chain slack, just worry about the fact that you get these markings even. That's the first and most important part. And once your tire is straight, you can start focusing on your chain slack. Another common issue is that one of these metal plates comes loose or is more loose than the other. Like, for example, you start to turn on that little nut for your chain slack and it just comes off. This metal plate is loose. You have to fix this by first loosening the other side and then tightening the one that came loose first. Tighten it more than the other. And then go from there. Make sure that everything is level, because most of the time this also means that your markings are off and that your rear tire is not centered. So fix that first.
Okay, so now that you know what to do, don't forget to check your chain regularly. I would personally suggest before every ride. That way you can make sure that everything is working nicely and that you're not going to be running into any issues while you're out for a ride. Okay, so that was it, guys. Thank you for watching and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.